Hi everyone, it's Friday. Does anyone else feel like it's Friday? I know I have a hard time thinking that. Hi, it's Friday. For those of you watching, today I was going to talk about how to help release your kids' energy when they're stuck inside. But considering that starting Sunday or Monday, people say Sunday. I can't even, I don't know for sure. You can start bringing your kids outside. I thought that I would talk about that, right? So for those of you who are in Spain, or even if you're not in Spain, but you are in the middle of a lockdown and you haven't been able to take your kids outside, can you choose a meme to show how you think your first trip out of the house with kids will be? I think for me it would be I don't know if this exists, but for me it would be, the mom from Incredibles, Elastigirl, Elasti-Woman, whatever, the one who can like stretch her arms. I think that would be me, just because like I have two small kids and both of them like to run and move around, and I think that when they're out and they see that they'll actually be able to like run, I can just imagine them going in different directions and me just trying to like hold both their hands. So that's what I'm imagining our very first trip out of the house will be like. So please, I'd love to know what you're thinking it will be like for you and your kids. So how can we set our kids up for success in this sense, right? So that we can actually have this like peaceful walk around the block, right? So I have 3 tips. I'm going to touch on 3 topics. So the first one is preparation is key. The second part is to include talking about what to expect outside. And the last one is what to do if your child doesn't want to go outside. So the first one is preparation, right? It's all about setting expectations and letting your kids know what is going to happen or what do you expect from them, right? So talk about what's going to happen. Like you expect them when you leave the house, depending on the age of your kids, maybe you expect them to hold your hand. Maybe they're gonna be bringing toys. I don't know. It depends on your child, right? So talk about what's going to happen. Include possible scenarios for you. I mean, you know your kids best, right? Like Salma, the last Monday was talking about how her daughter doesn't like going in the stroller. So, right? Like, even though you haven't been outside in weeks, you know what might happen. So talk about what might happen, how you can avoid them, right? So in our case, our daughter gets tired easily when she's walking and she always wants to be carried. So tomorrow we're actually going to have a problem-solving conversation with her to see how we can avoid having to carry her. So you talk to your kids in advance also about those types of things, how you can avoid them, or what can you do if it happens, right? One mom expressed concern of keeping her kid apart if he were to see other children, just because I guess, especially if they're his friends, just because it's been so long since they've actually seen each other, she just imagines them, wanting to run and play together. So talk about that as well and try to like really listen to your child and hear what's going on with him, and then together see what you can do. So the idea isn't that you start this conversation just so you can tell them what to do. It's also for you to be open to their own ideas, right? And so that leads me to the second one, which is to focus on what they can do. So right now everyone has been talking about don't touch the walls, don't touch your face, don't touch this, don't. So if you remember, Heska actually talked about how when you say the word don't, our brains actually don't hear it. So when you say don't touch your face, your kid just hears touch your face, right? So instead focus on what it is that they can do. So in this case, in Spain, the kids can leave and they can bring a toy, or they can bring their bikes or their scooters. And I don't know if it's on purpose, but I would like to think they had thought about it. And I think one of the reasons why is so that the kids have something to place their hands on, right? If they're carrying something, or if they're pushing their bike or their scooter, they know where their hands go. So instead of always directing them to not touch their face, you can tell them to hold their bike or to hold this, right? We just really always focus on the behavior that you want to see, not just for when you go outside, but in general. And another thing also is you can also practice at home, right? When you have this conversation with them, and you can tell them where you expect to go, and you can do like a mini with like their toys, also depending on the age of your kids. You can practice this at home just to kind of like prepare them for what will happen. I mentioned this also, I think it was yesterday, of how play, especially for young kids, is very powerful because it's a way for them to process information. So if you are able to play with them in a way of like setting them up for what's going to happen, that's another way that can just help them be and feel more prepared. So right now we've been focusing on what you can do, right? Or what your kids can do. But another thing which I think you should also mention to them, and this came from another mom, so thank you for mentioning it, is to talk about what to expect outside. These kids, they've been home the past, I don't know how many weeks it's been, 6 weeks, 7, I don't know. But they've been home, right? They don't know that when you go outside, all the shops will be closed. I mean, or maybe they know, but they haven't seen it, right? So it's good to set them up for it, that the shops will be closed. Only certain shops are open. There will be less people than they're used to. Most of them will be wearing masks. There are gonna be less cars, right? You might be walking on the street, and then another person's walking on the street, and they might just suddenly cross the street. Just imagine, like, I don't know about you, but sometimes when I go to the supermarket, it's weird. It's weird. It's like an apocalypse, it's just weird. And it can really also bring up fear, right? If you don't understand why things are like this. So I think it's really important to explain to your kids what to expect, not just from their behavior, but from the outside. And when you explain this, as much as possible, just be really simple and matter of fact, right? Like, the stores are closed because people have to work from home, or because we're trying to stop the virus from spreading, right? There's no need to scare them, but also there is no need to kind of not give them any information at all. So depending on the age of your child and your child's personality, what type of information would be useful to them. And so, speaking about fear, there might be some kids who won't even want to go outside, right? They might think that it's too dangerous to go outside. My daughter, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but like a few weeks ago, she did say that she didn't want to leave the house because coronavirus is there. And so for those kids, if they don't want to go outside, I wouldn't force them, right? I would kind of just like respect them and just like listen to them. And so I put here, what if your kid doesn't go outside? Well, first of all, don't push it. And the second one is to just give their emotions the space that they need to be listened to be acknowledged, and to be validated, right? You can ask them what their fears are, and you can try to support them, right? You can ask them what you can do to help them. But I think also it's really important, like a lot of times as parents, we try to think that to help our kids with our emotions, we have to make them feel better. I'd like to suggest that if you want to help your kids with their emotions, really just seeing them, acknowledging them, and letting them like sit with them and being with them is what makes them feel better, not telling them that don't be silly, you're safe. Just like denying their emotions doesn't help them at all. So if your kid doesn't want to go outside for whatever reason, I would respect that and also try to understand why and figure out from your child how you can support them, right? So another thing that's also happening on Sunday, aside from kids being allowed to go outside, is my problem-solving workshop. So in this workshop, I'll be actually coincidentally addressing two of the things that I've just mentioned. First of all, I'm going to share with you some tools to help your kids with their emotions, right? What can you really do to help them feel better without making them feel better, without releasing that pressure and that expectation? And the second thing is how to actually have this type of conversation with your kids in advance to find solutions that will work for the whole family, right? That's what the problem-solving conversation steps are. They're not just steps that you use when you have a problem and you have this conflict. There are also steps that you can use in advance when you see something, especially something as clear as this coming up. So, because with the new guidelines coming up on Sunday, there might be some feelings that will surface for your kids, maybe some feelings that were just there the past few weeks, but they haven't been able to come out. And now with like the opportunity to leave the house, these feelings might come out. And so I just want to give you these tools to really support you during this period. And that way you can be more present for your child, right? And another thing is that I'm just thinking is also, I don't know how long so many parents have been saying, we need to get our kids outdoors. They need to stretch their legs, right? So the idea is to use the problem solving steps so that this walk around the block to stretch your legs doesn't become a walk in Jurassic Park, which is just full of danger and stress, right? So in the webinar, I will really teach you all these different tools that you can use to make this situation a lot easier. So if you're interested, you can sign up at denisesuarez.com/problem-solve. Again, it's denisesuarez.com/problem-solve. I'll see you on Sunday and good luck. Let's see how it goes. Bye everyone. Have a happy weekend.